There's been a big line move in the Bowling Green Kent State game. Bowling Green opened as about a 10.5-point favorite. Now they're all the way up to 14 points. And this is the game that Steve from collegefootballwinning.com has chosen to discuss with us today. Always very interesting to hear what Steve had to say. Steve, of course, has a great record long-term in college football. We'll hear a little bit more about that after his analysis of this game. All right, Steve, this is an interesting one. Bowling Green, obviously, a team with a huge offense, a defense that's good enough, and they've covered 5 out of their last 6 spreads. Now, Kent State's kind of an interesting team. They're kind of like very up and down, hot and cold. Their last game, they actually got a road win against UMass, who's having a disappointing year. But before that, when they were facing elite MAC competition against Toledo, they got blown out. I think we can consider Bowling Green to be elite MAC competition. Then even earlier in the year, they played Minnesota very competitively, but they got blown out by Illinois. So just looking over at Kent State's history of final scores this year, a little bit hard to get a read on them. Bowling Green, though, obviously awesome and an elite team in the MAC. Steve, your analysis always goes beneath the numbers. What do you have to say about this game?
Thank you, Peter, for the very kind introduction. Versus the FBS, Bowling Green ranks 6th in scoring, while Kent State is 125th out of 128 FBS teams. Bowling Green has outscored their opponents so far this season by an average of 10.7 points per game, while Kent has been outscored by their opponents by an average of 6.7 points per game, all while Bowling Green has played the tougher schedule. So if you ignore the strength of schedule for a moment and you just look at that scoring differential, you put it together, and the difference between these two teams is 17.4 points per game. So you take 17.4 and if you want, you subtract 3 points for a home field advantage for Kent State, and you'd get 14.4 points per game. Well, what's the current line?
Right, 14.
14 or 14 and a half. So it seems to make sense right there, more or less. But as you said, this line opened at Kent State getting just 10.5 points. And there has been 3.5 to 4, even 4.5 points of line movement, depending on where you're looking. So let's look at this and see which line, the opening or the closing, seems to be the one that I think is more predictive. Bowling Green passes 53.46% of the time, and it would actually be more than that if they're in a competitive game, while Kent State passes just 39.69% of the time. Well, why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because both teams are great when it comes to turnover margin. Versus the FBS, Bowling Green ranks 13th in the country. Kent State ranks 19th in the country. Both excellent. But for both, the turnover margin is interception heavy. Bowling Green gets 67% of their turnovers from interceptions. Kent State gets even more. 77% of their turnovers come from interceptions. So then you ask the next question, well, who throws more? As we said, by far that is Bowling Green, giving Kent State the opportunity to maximize their turnover margin advantage, which is, again, in the interceptions. Bowling Green averages 432 passing yards per game. They're ranked number 1 in the country, Peter, for passing yards. So they are definitely pass heavy. And they've been very successful. But we need to look, as you said, beneath those numbers a little bit. The average ranking for the pass defenses that Bowling Green has faced so far, passing defenses, is 98th in the country. So they've faced a lot of bad passing defenses. So the next question is, well, how good is Kent State's passing defense? Well, by yards per attempt versus FBS competition, they rank 17th in the country. So a far better passing defense than what Bowling Green has seen so far this year. Bowling Green is 125th in sacks allowed. That's last in their conference. Kent State is the top 3 for sacks in their conference. So again, getting after that quarterback when he's going to drop back to pass. This line change, you've seen the pretty extreme line change, especially for this early in the week and for a game that seems fairly out of the public eye. Well, we've talked about this in a video before this season. So far, when the line has moved more than 3 points, just as it has in this game, so far this season, it's been wrong 52.1% of the time. Right now, you might be looking at some of that betting data. Right now, Kent is getting less than 20% of the public betting. And you might be thinking, oh, actually, I don't know how you're thinking. Some people think, oh, that's great. It's a terrific contrarian play. Others think, no. For smaller games like this in college football, when one team's getting like 80%, you probably want to be on that side, especially in the less than marquee matchups like this one. Mm-hmm. Well, last year in this exact game, this exact matchup, Kent only received 15% of the public betting. They were a 14-point underdog then, and Kent State beat the spread by 4 points. And once again, the line direction in that game was also wrong. So my conclusion, Peter, as of right now, and it could change because, again, we're a couple of days before kickoff, if this line goes back to, for example, if this line goes back to Kent State getting only 10.5 points or even less than that, like it did on the opener, then we're off this game completely. But if not, I like Kent State getting as many points as possible. And as we're speaking right now, you can get them at 14.5 points. But I wouldn't recommend betting this until game day to see if that line has gone back to the opener or if it's still stayed around the levels it's at right now.
Okay, very interesting analysis. That is what Steve from collegefootballwinning.com does. Yes, the line is 14, but Greek and Bodog, a few other places, have 14.5. Steve, that was just an awesome analysis, and that kind of analysis goes into your top picks every week at your website, collegewinningfootball.com. Tell us a little bit about that, what you do there.
It's at collegefootballwinning.com. All we do is college football betting analysis all year round, even in the off season. We're a company that's founded on making betting recommendations algorithmically, and we call those algorithmic betting recommendations our formula. The formula lifetime heading into this season is 62.75% against the spread. This season, we've only had enough data to give out 3 weeks worth of formula betting recommendations, but we've been giving other betting recommendations, sort of pre-formula and some things based on totals. So for all of our betting recommendations, including the free ones and stuff that you see in these videos, we are 60.26% against the spread so far this season. That's 78 betting recommendations, beating the spread at 60.26%. So come and join us at collegefootballwinning.com for the rest of the season. You can enter coupon code SBR10, that's SBR10. You'll get 10% off of any membership that we're currently offering. And as we're speaking, we just lowered our membership rates from now to the end of the season. So it's the perfect time to join us.
Okay, sounds great, Steve. Thanks so much. Talk to you again next week.
Thank you, Peter.